You walk into a casino feeling lucky. The lights are flashing, the music is pumping, and you can smell the money in the air. You sit down at a blackjack table with $100, and within an hour, you've doubled your money. You're on fire. You're beating the house. But here is the thing that will blow your mind. Even while you're winning, the house is actually smiling. Why? Because the casino is already counting their profits from you. Today, I'm going to reveal exactly how casinos have engineered a perfect psychological loop designed to trap you in a cycle you've seen 1,000 times. Yet millions of people still fall for it. You know it's a trap, but their design makes you powerless to walk away. It's not through cheating or rigging games, but there's something far more subtle and powerful. They've mastered the art of exploiting fundamental flaws in human psychology that most of us don't even realize we have. But the best part is, once you understand these mechanisms, you'll never look at gambling the same way again. Let me start with the foundation of their entire business model, something called the law of large numbers. This isn't just some boring mathematical concept. This is literally the secret weapon that keeps casinos in business year after year, regardless of how many jackpots they pay out or how many lucky streak players go on. Think about flipping a coin. If you flip it 10 times, you might get 7 heads and 3 tails. That's 70% heads, pretty far from the expected 50-50 split. Your brain might start thinking that tails is due to come up more often. But here's where it gets interesting. If you flip that same coin 1,000 times, something magical happens. You'll get incredibly close to 500 heads and 500 tails. The more flips you do, the closer you get to that perfect 50-50 ratio. This is the law of large numbers in action. Individual results can vary wildly, but over a large sample size, the actual probability always wins out. Always. And casinos have built their entire empire on this mathematical certainty. But here's the main big difference between your coin flip and a casino game. Your coin gives each side a 50% chance of winning. Casino games? They're designed to give the house a slight edge on every single bet. In roulette, for instance, the house edge might be around 5%. In blackjack, it could be less than 1% if you play perfectly. In slot machines, it can be anywhere from 2 to 15%. Now, that might not sound like much. 5%? You might think you can overcome that with skill or luck. But remember the law of large numbers. Over hundreds of thousands of bets, that small percentage becomes an absolute mathematical guarantee of profit for the casino. Let me put this in perspective. Imagine you're playing a game where you have a 49% chance of winning, and the casino has a 51% chance. On any individual bet, you might win. You might even win several times in a row, but if you play that game 1,000 times, the casino will win approximately 510 times, while you'll win approximately 490 times. That 20 bet difference represents pure profit for the house. And here's what makes this so dangerous. You don't feel like you're playing an unfair game. 49% feels pretty close to 50-50. The difference is so small that your brain can't intuitively grasp how devastating it becomes over time. You experience wins and losses that feel random, that feel like they could go either way, but the math is working against you with the precision of a Swiss watch. This brings us to the first major psychological trap that casinos exploit, our terrible intuition for probability and statistics. Our brains simply didn't evolve to understand these concepts naturally. For most of human history, we survived by making quick decisions based on limited information and emotional instincts. This creates what psychologists call cognitive biases, systematic errors in thinking that affect our decisions and judgments. And casinos have become absolute masters at exploiting these biases to separate you from your money. Take the gambler's fallacy, one of the most common and destructive biases in gambling. This is the belief that past results affect future outcomes in random events. You see it everywhere in casinos. A roulette player notices that red has come up 5 times in a row, so they bet big on black because it's due. A slot machine player thinks a jackpot is more likely because the machine hasn't paid out in a while. But here's the brutal truth. The roulette wheel doesn't remember what happened on the last spin. The slot machine doesn't keep track of how long it's been since the last jackpot. Each event is completely independent of what came before. The probability remains exactly the same on every single play. Yet our brains are wired to see patterns even where none exist. We're pattern recognition machines, and this served us well when we needed to spot predators in the wild or predict seasonal changes. But in a casino, this same tendency becomes a massive liability. We see meaning in randomness, trends in chaos, and systems in pure chance. Casinos don't just rely on this bias, they actively encourage it. Ever notice how roulette tables display the results of recent spins on a big electronic board? That's not for your convenience. It's specifically designed to trigger the gambler's fallacy. They want you to see those patterns. They want you to think you can predict what comes next based on what happened before. But the psychological manipulation goes much deeper than simple cognitive biases. Casinos have invested millions in understanding exactly what keeps people gambling, and they've created environments that are essentially psychological laboratories designed to extract money from your wallet. Consider the physical environment of a casino. Have you ever noticed there are no clocks anywhere? No windows? The lighting is carefully designed to eliminate any sense of time passing. The air is pumped full of oxygen to keep you alert and awake. The carpet patterns are specifically chosen to be slightly disorienting, making you feel like you're in an alternate reality where normal rules don't apply. The sounds are carefully orchestrated too. Slot machines don't just randomly beep and buzz. Every sound is precisely engineered to trigger psychological responses. The frequency of the winning sound is chosen to release dopamine in your brain. The near miss sound is designed to be be almost as rewarding as an actual win, keeping you pulling that lever even when you're losing money. And then there's the issue of chips and cards instead of cash. This isn't just about convenience. It's about psychological distance. When you exchange your money for chips, you're taking the first step in disconnecting from the real value of what you're betting. Those colorful plastic discs don't feel like your hard-earned money. They feel like playing tokens in an elaborate game. Casinos have discovered that people bet more aggressively with chips than they would with cash. The psychological barrier to spending is dramatically reduced when you're not directly handling money. It's the same principle that makes credit cards dangerous for some people. The pain of payment is reduced when the transaction feels abstract. But perhaps the most dangerous psychological trick casinos use is the concept of intermittent variable reinforcement. This is a fancy term for something you probably already understand intuitively. It's the same mechanism that makes social media so addictive, that keeps people checking their phones compulsively, and that forms the basis of all gambling addiction. Here's how it works. Instead of rewarding behavior on a predictable schedule, you reward it randomly. Sometimes the reward comes quickly. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it's bigger. Sometimes it's smaller. This unpredictability creates a powerful psychological hook that's incredibly difficult to break. Think about slot machines. You pull the lever and most of the time, nothing happens. But occasionally, unpredictably, you win something. Sometimes it's a small win, sometimes it's bigger. This pattern of occasional, unpredictable rewards creates a flood of dopamine in your brain that's actually more powerful than getting rewarded every single time. Your brain becomes convinced that the next pull might be the big one. The next spin might be the jackpot. The uncertainty creates excitement, anticipation, and a compulsive need to keep playing. And because the rewards are intermittent, you never reach a natural stopping point. There's always the possibility that the very next bet could change everything. This is why lottery tickets are so popular despite having astronomical odds against winning. The possibility of a massive life-changing payout keeps people buying tickets week after week, even though they're statistically more likely to be struck by lightning multiple times than to win the jackpot. Casinos have perfected the system across all their games. Even when you're losing money overall, you'll experience enough small wins to keep the dopamine flowing and maintain the illusion that you're just one bet away from a big score. They've calculated exactly how often to let you win to keep you playing, and how much to let you win to keep you invested without cutting into their profits. Now let's talk about another crucial element of casino psychology, the illusion of control. Humans have a deep psychological need to feel like they're in control of their environment and their outcomes. Casinos exploit this need brilliantly by offering games that seem to involve skill and decision-making, even when the outcome is purely random. Take craps, for example. Players can choose from dozens of different betting options, each with its own odds and payouts. The complexity creates an illusion that skill and knowledge can influence the outcome. Players develop elaborate betting systems and strategies, convinced they've found a way to beat the house. But at the end of the day, you're just betting on the random roll of dice. No amount of skill or strategy can change the fundamental mathematics of the game. Even in games that do involve some element of skill, like blackjack, casinos have found ways to tilt the odds in their favor. They use multiple decks to make card counting more difficult. They set betting limits that prevent you from using mathematical strategies effectively. They train dealers to spot advantage players and remove them from the games. The house edge exists in every single game, and it's specifically designed to be small enough that you don't notice it in the short term, but large enough to guarantee profits over the long term. It's a masterpiece of psychological and mathematical engineering. But here's what really makes casinos so devastatingly effective. They don't just rely on one of these tricks. They layer them on top of each other, creating a perfect storm of psychological manipulation that's incredibly difficult to resist, even when you understand what's happening. You walk into an environment designed to disorient and excite you. You exchange your money for chips that feel less valuable. You play games with carefully engineered sound and visual effects. You experience random rewards that flood your brain with dopamine. You're surrounded by other people who seem to be winning. You lose track of time and money. And through it all, you maintain the illusion that you're in control, that you can influence the outcome, that you might be the one to beat the system. The result? Billions of dollars in profits for casinos and millions of people who convince themselves that gambling is entertainment. Even as they steadily lose money over time, the house always wins, not through cheating or trickery, but through a sophisticated understanding of human psychology combined with unbreakable mathematical laws. So, what is the real takeaway here? It's time to stop looking at gambling as entertainment and start seeing it for what it truly is, a voluntary tax on your future. The casino isn't a playground. It's a high-tech extraction chamber designed to harvest your potential. Every dollar you invest in a slot machine or a roulette wheel is a dollar you are burning for a shot of dopamine. If you want to actually win, you have to stop playing games where the math is rigged against you and start playing games where the math is on your side. Instead of handing your hard-earned cash to a billionaire casino owner, consider the healthier alternatives. Instead of betting on a red or black, buy a piece of the companies that actually run the world. Spend that money on something tangible. Real estate is an asset that pays you rent while you sleep. It's a game where the house edge belongs to you, or you can even invest in yourself. The highest ROI you will ever get isn't from a jackpot, it's from a new skill. Spend that gambling budget it on a course, a mentor, or a book. A skill stays with you forever. A jackpot disappears in a weekend. The next time you see those flashing lights and hear those engineered sounds, remember, they aren't celebrating a winner. They are calling for a victim. The question is, are you going to keep being the player, or are you finally ready to become the owner?